Back in 2016, I was working in Dubai with a guy named Bismillah. He was from a small village near Cobra in Faisalabad, Pakistan. At the time, we both worked in date palm farms, and we used to sleep outside at night because there was no electricity available in that area. Snakes were everywhere. Our sponsor had dragged a long wooden pole from far away behind his pickup truck. We used that pole to build a raised platform, stacking broken pieces around it to make it higher. Then we laid mattresses on top and slept there. Since it was a hilly area surrounded by date farms, snakes roamed freely at night. On one side, there was the constant fear of snakes. On the other, mosquitoes wouldn't let us rest. Most nights, we couldn't fall asleep until 1 or 2 in the morning. So, to pass the time, we would tell each other stories from all over the world. Bismillah was a good guy, simple, genuine. One night we started talking about snakes. In the middle of the conversation, Bismillah said, "These snakes here are nothing. There are only 2 types, tear snakes and Cobra snakes. But back in Pakistan there are so many different kinds." As the conversation went on, we somehow started talking about a nag, a cobra. Then Bismillah said something that caught my full attention. A cobra once became friends with my father, and it actually helped him in many ways. That sounded too strange and too interesting to ignore. I immediately sat up and said, "Bismillah, tell me the whole story. Don't leave anything out." We pulled out a pack of cigarettes, lit them up, and settled in. Bismillah took a deep drag, exhaled slowly, and began his story. Since this story is about my father, I'll tell it the way he used to tell it. And that's how the story began, in his father's own words. "My name is Mubarak Ali, and I'm from a small village near Cobra in Faisalabad. We were 2 brothers, no sisters. We owned about 6 acres of farmland. My older brother mostly wasted his time wandering around, while I was the one who took care of the land. In village life, watering crops at night is nothing unusual. Our turn for irrigation rotated, 6 months during the day, 6 months at night. Next to our fields, there was a large sand dune spread over 3 to 4 acres. That land belonged to a soldier who was originally from the Kohat region. He had about 12 acres in total, 8 were cultivated, but the remaining 4 were covered in sand dunes and thick wild bushes, which made farming there nearly impossible. Behind that dune, a government canal flowed, carrying water beyond our fields to the lands further ahead. It was the month of Sawan. Humid, heavy heat filled the air. The whole day had been suffocating. And then, out of nowhere, dark clouds rolled in by evening. Suddenly it started pouring. Making a round of the crops, I returned to the same spot. The shawl lay still, no movement beneath it, but I didn't dare lift it. I thought to myself, I'll go home now. After my irrigation turn is over, I'll come back at dawn and check it. Deep inside, I was already convinced. The cobras must have left the Nagmani inside my shawl. I finished my turn, removed the cloth from the canal outlet, and went back home. At dawn, I woke up, offered my prayer, and headed straight back toward the fields, my heart filled with excitement. I kept thinking, let's see how true the elders' stories really are. Is there really a Nagmani waiting for me? Slowly, I walked toward the sand dune where I had seen the cobras the night before. As I stepped off the canal path and climbed toward the spot, I fixed my eyes on that exact place from a distance. But something felt off. As I got closer, a strange uneasiness crept in. When I finally reached the spot, my shawl wasn't there. I crossed over and stood exactly where the cobras had been. I looked around, scanning every direction. My heart started racing. Did someone else come here and take it? 1,000 thoughts rushed through my mind. I tried to trace the snake's trails, but the heavy rain from the night before had washed everything away. The wet sand held no marks. Still, I kept searching, walking around, scanning carefully. And then, in the distance, I noticed something. The corner of my shawl, caught in a bush. I ran toward it. As I got closer and looked carefully, my senses nearly failed me. In the middle of that bush, there was a burrow, and my shawl was more than halfway pulled inside it. Only one corner was left outside. At that moment, I understood. The cobras had taken it. With trembling hands, I grabbed the edge of the shawl and slowly pulled it out. and what I saw left me stunned. Along with the shawl, gold amulets came out, traditional bridal ornaments, locally called tawitrian. These are usually given to a bride at her wedding. In some regions, 5 are given. In others, 7. I counted them. There were 7 pure gold pieces. My hands were shaking as I slipped them into my pocket, picked up the shawl and hurried back home. Now I was certain the cobras lived in that very burrow inside the bush. 8 days later, it was my turn again to irrigate the fields. That night I went out to the farm. The moon was in its later phase, maybe the 23rd or 24th, so the night was quite dark. I watered the cotton crops and then sat down near the canal to rest. After a short while, I heard it again, that same faint rustling sound. I quickly turned on my flashlight, and my heart almost stopped. A large black cobra was sitting just 2 steps away from me, coiled still, watching. At first, fear rushed through me, but then something changed. I realized if it wanted to harm me, it already could have. Instead, it had come close and simply sat there. A strange feeling grew inside me, almost like pride. It felt as if the cobra had accepted me, as if it had become my friend. After all, that night, when they were vulnerable, I had covered them, protected their privacy, and in return, they had given me those 7 gold amulets. From that day on, I told no one, not about the cobra, not about the gold. Whenever I went to the fields during the day, it was as if the cobra could sense my presence. It would appear from somewhere, silently, and come sit right beside me. And strangely enough, I was no longer afraid, because deep down I had started to believe. The cobra was now my friend. A few days later, there was a wedding near Sahiwal, close to Harappa, in a nearby village. I attended the wedding, and while I was there, I noticed an old jogi, a snake charmer, putting on a show with a black cobra. That cobra looked exactly like the one I had seen in my fields. The same size, the same dark shine, the same presence. When the show ended, the jogi started packing up to leave. I went up to him and struck up a conversation. We talked for a while, and soon enough we got along well. I asked him, "Where do you live?" The old jogi replied, "2 villages ahead from here. There's a small settlement where we joggies live." I said, "I'll come visit you tonight. We'll sit and talk." He smiled and said, "Bismillah, you're welcome any time." I asked him his name, but he just waved it off and said, "When you come to the settlement, just ask around. They'll point you to me." And with that he left. By evening, the wedding wrapped up. I took a young boy with me on a motorcycle, and we headed toward the jogi's settlement. When we arrived, I asked someone about the jogi. The boy standing nearby pointed ahead and said, "That house, right there." We knocked on the door. Alajawaya's son opened it and asked, "Who are you?" I introduced myself and mentioned the village we had come from. Before I could say much more, a voice came from inside. "Let them in." It was Alajawaya. We stepped inside, and the old jogi welcomed us warmly, seating us on a charpay in the courtyard. He asked if we had eaten, but we had already had dinner at the wedding, so we weren't hungry. He told his wife to bring tea and then turned his full attention toward us. As the conversation flowed, I carefully brought up the topic of the black cobra. That was the real reason I had come. The old jogi listened, then said calmly, "A black cobra is actually a friendly snake. It doesn't bite without reason, unless you harm it first. But if you so much as throw a small stone at it," he paused, his expression turning serious, "then it will never leave you alone. No matter where you hide, even beneath 7 layers, it will find you, and it will take its revenge." Then he began telling a story. He said, "Once a man came to me from Bakar. During the month of Sawan, he had killed a female cobra. After that, the male cobra started following him. Wherever the man went, the cobra would appear. He was terrified, completely broken. Running from place to place, he finally came to me for help." The old jogi glanced at the charpai we were sitting on and continued, "We were sitting right here on this very cot. The man was crying as he told me everything, how he had killed the female cobra, and now the male wouldn't leave him alone. I offered him a glass of milk, but he said, 'Let me finish first, then I'll drink.' The jogi lowered his voice slightly, as if reliving the moment. He kept saying, "I have small children. I don't know how I'll ever escape this snake." I told him, "Ask the cobra for forgiveness." He looked at me, shaken, and said, "How do I ask for forgiveness from a snake?" I said, "Call upon Guga Pir. Tell the cobra to forgive you in his name." The black cobra is loyal to Guga Pir. When you take his name, it changes its path, even spares its enemy. The man folded his hands, trembling, and repeated the words exactly. "Forgive me, for the sake of Guga Pir." When he finished, I said, "Now drink the milk." But the moment he reached for the glass, it was already overturned. I brought the lantern closer to see clearly, and the color of the milk had turned blue. I looked at him and said, "Go, your life has been spared. That cobra followed you all the way, from Bakka to here to Sahiwal. While we were sitting here, it was right beneath this very sharp eye. It had already poured its venom into your milk. If you had taken even a sip, you would have died within a minute, and even I, being a jogi, wouldn't have been able to save you." I paused, then said slowly, "But you called upon Guga Pir, and that is why the cobra forgave you." Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat. I realized then how far a black cobra could go for revenge. I looked at the jogi and asked, "In which season do snakes usually bite?" The old man replied calmly, "Only 3 months in the whole year, Har, Sawan, and Barden." He continued, "During these months, snakes come out of their burrows and move around freely. In Har, they search for a mate. In Sawan, they mate, and until Barden, they stay together. After that, they separate." Then he added, "A female cobra gives birth only once a year, and she produces 7 offspring at once. These 7 stay close together until they grow up. Then each goes on to find its own pair." He looked at me seriously and said, "Never kill a snake during Sawan or Baden. In these months they are in pairs. If you kill one, the other is always nearby, and it will take revenge." I nodded, then brought the conversation to what had been on my mind all along. "Babaji, how does a cobra give a nagmani?" The jogi leaned back slightly and said, "Not every cobra has a nagmani. Only a few rare ones do. The nagmani is like a bead, a mystical pearl. If you dissolve it in water and give it to a sick person, they recover instantly. Whoever possesses a nagmani never suffers from lack of wealth, and no snake in the world will ever bite them. Even if someone else is bitten by a snake, just dissolve the mani in water and give it to them. They'll be cured." I listened carefully, then asked the real question, "But Babaji, how do these cobras give their nagmani, or how can someone obtain it?" The old jogi replied, "From the first night of the lunar month until the 14th, you must place 2 bowls of milk at a place where you know a cobra lives. On the night of the full moon, when the cobra and the female mate, one of them leaves the nagmani in those bowls." He paused, then said quietly, "It is given as a reward to the one who offers the milk." And he continued, "If a person remains pure and does not misuse the nagmani, it brings great benefit. But if someone uses it for wrongful deeds, the cobra withdraws it. Just as jinn can vanish at will, snakes too have a special power to sense and track things with their sense of smell." I did not tell Baba Jogi that I already had a cobra friend. That secret I kept to myself. After a long meeting with Baba Jogi, we returned, and by morning I reached my home in Godhra from Sahiwal. The moon was nearing the end of its cycle. I decided I would place bowls of milk for my friend, the cobra, on the first night of the new lunar month. Perhaps it would give me a nagmani. I bought 2 clay bowls from the market. On the first day of the lunar month, carrying a bucket of milk, I went to the sand mound where my shawl had gotten stuck in the bush. I placed the bowls and poured the milk, then returned home. Each morning I found the bowls empty. I continued this ritual for 14 days, filling the bowls, and the cobra and the female continued to drink. By the 14th day, I was certain that either the cobra or the female would leave their nagmani in one of the bowls. That morning I checked, and indeed, in one bowl lay the nagmani, tiny, no bigger than a lentil. I took the bowls home, poured water into one bowl with the mani, and gave a little of that water to my mother. I said, "Amma, drink this water. You always say your knees ache. Amma, after drinking this, your pain will be completely gone." After she drank it, my mother felt perfectly well. She ran around, feeding the livestock, full of energy, completely healed. After that, many sick people were given water infused with the Nagmani, and all of them recovered completely. For several days, the Nagmani stayed with me, bringing constant benefit. Money and wealth never ran out either. But then came the downfall. I started visiting a house in our village frequently. There were no men in the house, only 4 or 5 women. I got involved in a wrongful relationship. A few days later, I got injured and broke a leg. I lay on the charpai calling to my mother, asking her to give me water from the bowl containing the Nag Mani. But even that water could not ease the pain. 2 or 3 days later at Fajr, the Cobra, my friend, came to our house. It swallowed back its Nagmani and before leaving, struck one leg of my charpai with its tail, jarring me awake. I struggled to sit up. The Cobra was furious, hissing and standing upright, only its tail touching the ground. For 3 or 4 minutes it glared at me, filled with anger. Slowly it crawled away across the threshold. By then my leg had healed. I continued going to my fields and the sand mound, but the Cobra never appeared again. Perhaps the Cobra and the female had left the area. Or maybe, because of my mistake, they chose not to show themselves. A single mistake had cost me dearly. I was left permanently lame in one leg, forever. Reminded of the consequences of my actions, Bismillah finished his father's story. It was 2:30 in the night. We straightened the mosquito nets and lay down. A cool breeze swept through, and slowly we drifted into the valleys of sleep.